In episode 23, part 1 begins with Sakura running in the hallway of the house, just like the one she was dreaming about. Also, previously, that's where Eli's living now. And when she stopped to look inside the door, she sees Clow talking to Yue and Kero. Now, he was sitting in the big red chair, the same one she's been sitting at just 3 episodes ago. Also, as we learned back in episode 22, the astral form of Cloud Reed, the one she was talking to, just told her that Yue and Kira would be taken care of, thanks to her, when Yue and Kira were told by him to choose a suitable candidate to take care of them while he's away. So anyway, that's what was going on. So after Sakura gets a final message from Clary that the future is hers to create and etc., so she went back to the present with her friends Madison, Lee, and Kiro. Well, first of all, she told them the good news that she's fine. Second of all, even better, she explains to what happened while she was there. She says that while she was there in the past, she realized that she was in the exact same house that Eli Moon, along with Ruby and Spinner, are living now. So, flashback, we go back to episode 22 when Sakura explains in the present scene how she saw Clowry sitting in the big red chair, the same one that she's sitting in, and Eli too. And then she saw Yue and Kiro. They were also there in front of Cloud and they were talking to each other. It was during that conversation that Cloud said since his time was up and then it was time for Yue and Kiro's destinies to be fulfilled, and wouldn't you know it, he was soon proven right. Plus, on top of that, he decided to make a couple of final preparations to first of all to choose Yue as a judge. And second of all, for Kiro to choose the next candidate to be the next master or mistress. And wouldn't you know it, it happens to be Sakura herself. So back to the present. After Sakura had explained all this to Kiro and her friends, Madison and Lee, that's when she realized that it was the exact same house that Eli's living in, and along with Spinner and Ruby. So when Kiro, who was in shock, he asked the question, Eli, you mean that kid from school? But then Kiro dismisses Sakura's claim and then pleads his case to say that neither himself nor Yue had ever been to Eli's house. And then Madison has her turn to plead her case to say it must be because Sakura had just said so. Now remember, that's the exact same hallway of the house that Sakura is running into, just like in her dreams. And of course, Lee, however, had a hunch that someone or something must have erased Kiro and Yui's memories somehow, and now he has to find out who's responsible and why. But then out of nowhere, a voice says, perhaps I can answer that. So you know what that means. The moment that the kids had looked up on the shrine, it was none other than Eli himself. And he just made a confession that, granted, it's true. It was me. I'm the one responsible for these disturbances, and I'm the one who caused all of this. But wait, that's not all. Eli also confessed that Eli was his name in the present, but during his past life, he was Clow Reed himself. Lee, Sakura, Madison, and Kiro just couldn't believe what they heard. They said, what? So unfortunately, it's true. Sakura should have seen this coming that both Cloud Reed and Eli are one of the same. Still, they were confused. So Kiro dismisses what Eli just said and said, no, this can't be. That's impossible. I don't believe it. So after Kiro pleaded his case to say that Cloud died centuries ago and that Sakura's the mistress now, well, Eli just said that even if it were true, that he spoke the truth. But wait, Eli's not alone because also there were Ruby and Spinner, and they're there too. Now Kiro recognizes Spinner, the same creature that set him up back at the bake sale in episode 10. So what Eli did first was unbelievable. He transforms the Sun Key into the Sun Staff. Now that's the exact same staff that he was using. Also the same staff that Sakura saw back in episode 20, just 3 episodes ago. But that's not all. Ruby and Spinner were on top of the shrine with Eli when it happened. So after his son's staff was transformed, and so were Ruby and Spinner. Sakura should realize that those are the same creatures that she's been dreaming about previously. So, you know what this means. What Sakura had dreamt has finally come true. So Sakura went first to plead her case that she knows that staff anywhere because she's seen it previously. Of course, Kero confessed that he's seen it too, because, according to Kero, he saw the exact same staff, the one that Cloud Reed used to have all these centuries ago. And now Eli has the exact same staff that Sakura's seen. So, being curious, what Lee wanted to know from Kero, if that was the case, if both Eli and Cloud Reed are the same, only reincarnated. Well, Kero again tries to dismiss it. He just couldn't believe it. So he asked Eli a question. Let me get this straight. If that were true, if you and Cloud Reed are the same, how could you just let Sakura's life be put in jeopardy like this? And you just let it happen? Don't worry, Kero, Eli said. You'll understand soon enough. Sooner than you think, he said. So, long story short, what Eli did next was unbelievable. He unleashed his power of darkness, just like in Sakura's dreams. Also, just like in Sakura's dreams, it causes a solar eclipse and a lunar eclipse at the same time. Meanwhile, as it happens, Sakura's best friend Madison falls asleep. Luckily for Sakura, she catches her. Now, don't ask me how Yue and Tori knew that there was something wrong, so they rushed to the scene to find out what was going on. But, unfortunately, on the way to the shrine, that's when Tori falls under a spell and he falls asleep too. So Yue does what anybody would do, carries Tori to the shrine. So, meanwhile, back at the shrine, while the power of darkness is eclipsing the moon and the sun at the same time, and back with Sakura, she was watching it happen, just like in her dreams. Soon enough, everybody fell asleep, including Sakura and Tori's father, Aiden, Madison's mother, Samantha, Maggie, the owner of the Twin Bill shop, Chelsea, Nikki, Rita, Zachary, and everybody else. So now that everyone fell asleep, well, except for Sakura, Lee, Kiro, and Yue's probably on his way to the shrine right now, that's when Lee has his turn to ask a question. What have you done? What did you do? So Eli was more than happy to answer that. He said he has cast a spell of darkness to eclipse the sun and the moon and make everyone fall asleep. Sakura and Lee couldn't believe it. They said, You did what? Then Sakura has her turn to ask him why. Well, Eli was more than happy to answer that. He said, Why, to test you, of course. Though I have to agree, I'm very impressed. Though Eli just couldn't believe it that the rest just fell asleep, well, except for the four of them being Sakura, Lee, Kiro, and Yue. Although, Eli also said, I do also have to agree that your magic is pretty strong than I realized. Then Eli just let slip to Sakura to say, time is running out. And if this darkness doesn't end before sunrise, everyone will fall asleep forever. For Sakura, this is bad news, and so she demanded Eli to wake them up right away. Well, Eli said to Sakura that only her magic can break the spell, and only she can wake them up, he said. Then Eli started pleading his case to say the longer we wait, the time is slipping away, and etc. So Eli pleaded his case to say, well, let's see what Sakura's friends could do in a battle. So Spinner goes up first to challenge Kero. And of course, Kero didn't hesitate to defend Sakura and to protect her. Then, long story short, after that battle with Kero and Spinner, guess who decided to show up? It's Yue, and he's carrying Sakura's brother Tori with him. So when Yue lands down with Tori, what Sakura wanted to know if her brother's going to be okay. And of course, Yue said that first of all, he's fine, and second of all, he's just asleep at the moment. So Yue goes face to face with Eli, who he thought was Clarice himself. So Eli has his turn to plead his case with Yue to say, so it's been a long time. So Yue has his turn to ask a question. Why couldn't he just make his presence known sooner? Well, in omission by confession, that's when Eli said that if he had, that his mission would have been for nothing. Well, if that's true, Yui said, when it's his turn to plead his case, then why was he and Kero forced to choose a new master or mistress to begin with? Before Eli can answer, that's when Ruby shows up and says, "Enough with the chit chat. Let's battle, you and I," she suggested. So both Ruby and Yue decide to have a combat with each other. So Ruby went first, and then Yue went second. Well, during that battle, that's when Ruby pleaded her case to say, even if you have Tori's powers, you still don't have a chance, and that my master's stronger than yours. And watching it happen was Sakura, while the battle continues to go on and on and on between Yue and Ruby. Well, Kero, after he heard that insult, he wasn't amused the least a bit, and then pleads his case to say nobody insults our master and gets away with it. So he joins in with a battle with Yue. So now it's a two-on-two combat between Ruby and Spinner against Kero and Yue. But before the two-on-two battle can begin, that's when Sakura says, "Wait a minute!" Then looks over her shoulder at Lee and asks him to do a favor for her. She says, "Will you take care of my best friend Madison and my brother Tori for me?" And Lee agrees. So once Lee got her best friend Madison and her brother Tori out of harm's way, that's when Sakura wanted to know what is going on. And of course, she pleaded her case to say how Clow had helped her and he had guided her and etc. So what Sakura wanted to know from me, like, why is he forcing her? And that's when he was more than glad to answer that. He said, "If you really want to know, you had to break my spell first," he said. Then Eli pleads his case to say time is running out and asks Sakura if she even cares if anybody opens their eyes anymore and etc. So Sakura pleads her case to say, "Of course I care." And that's when Eli started using his sun staff to attack her. And when Yue and Kiro saw what had happened, they said, "Watch out!" So Sakura knows what to do. She uses the Shield Start card to block Eli's attack. Luckily, she did so. So what Sakura did next was to use the Star Jump card. And with that, she dodges every attack that Eli throws at her. So back with Yue and Kiro, they tried to save Sakura, but they were blocked by Ruby and Spinner. So back with Sakura, things didn't go so well for her. But luckily for Lee, he uses his element of wind from his sword to catch her, and luckily he did so. So good news for Lee, Sakura's been saved. Although back with Eli, he's impressed, but pleads his case with Lee to say that his magical tricks will never work on him. Then when Lee started to collapse, that's when Sakura panicked and ran towards him. Well, luckily he'll be okay. So she says, "Just hang on." Then Eli let slip to Sakura to tell her, "If you hadn't tried to break my spell by now, then you had already decided their fate," he said. So what did Sakura do? She tries to end it all, just like she did in the final judgment with Yue in Season 2, Episode 11, of course. So she decides to use the Windy Star card to imprison Eli, just like she did with Yue. But it didn't work. Nothing happened. After that, Eli pleads his case with Sakura to say, although it is a good idea at the time, but he won't be easily captured as what Sakura did with Yue. By surprise, that's when Sakura makes her move before he did, so she used the Star Fly card to give her the wings to fly away from Eli's attacks the best way she knew how. Unfortunately, she failed miserably because Eli's attacks just melted her wings. But good news for Sakura, she landed on the bushes that saved her. For Kiro and Yue, they knew that this was the last straw, so they decided to battle with Ruby and Spinner to help out Sakura. And after they did, they rushed to the scene to see if Sakura's okay. With good news, she's fine. And of course, the star cards have been worried about her. So Sakura assures the star cards that she's got that she's okay. Now remember, Sakura has 40 star cards so far. Then she looked at her other hand and realized that there are 8 cards left to transform, the ones that she hasn't transformed yet. So when Kero and Yue had finally arrived, that's when Kero went first to speak in his case to say something must be done about this. And Sakura agrees. So when Sakura approached the shrine again and looks at the remaining cards that hasn't been transformed yet, now she realized what she must do. Transform all 8 of them, just like she did the first time. So she did that. But by surprise, only 6 of them had changed, except 2 which were light and dark. And the light and dark cards are the only 2 that haven't been changed yet. So, in Sakura's star card list, that makes it a total of 46. So now all she has to do is transform the last 2 cards. Now, Eli seems very impressed and he says, not bad, but there's still 2 cards left. So even though Kiro agrees with Yue when he said that Sakura's getting stronger, well, that may be true according to Kiro's case, but there's a problem. Sakura doesn't have enough power to transform all of them. So back with Sakura, who's looking at the last 2 cards. Then she remembered what the light card once told her in Season 2, Episode 7. She said that light overcomes darkness. And so she figured she has an idea to transform the light card to a star card. So she gave that a try, in which she did. But that didn't work either. What was going on here, she thought. Now Sakura's getting really horrified and worried and concerned that if something isn't done quick, then everyone will fall asleep forever. Unless she breaks the spell. But how? But as determined as Sakura can be, she said that there's no way she's going to allow this to happen. Not a chance. So when Kiro and Yue had approached Sakura, Kiro just let slip to Sakura to say that light and dark cards must be transformed together, but there's a problem. How's she going to pull that off? According to Yue, he says that since that's the case and both light and dark cards must be transformed together and they're most loyal out of all the cards themselves, he comes up with a plan that himself and Kiro can go inside Sakura's star staff. And if they do, then their power can reach the last 2 cards themselves. Sakura is now very worried, so before they can attempt on what they're about to do, she wanted to know from Yue and Kiro, are they going to be alright? Then, out of nowhere, that's when Eli just let slip to say, if they can pull it off, they'll be fine. But that's the chance and the only way that they're going to have, and it's the only choice they can make. Then Eli says, but if they don't, then they'll suffer an inevitable fate. Which, in other words, in Eli's case, Kiro and Yue will be stuck in Sakura's star staff for all eternity. For Sakura, this is a worst case scenario. Will they be able to do it? Or this could mean the end for the world and everyone if Sakura doesn't succeed. So that's the end of episode 23 in part 1.